Hey, hey.
What's going on? We're back.
We are back. And as we were just saying, on brand for us, 5 minutes late.
That's how we do it. That's how we do it.
Yeah. So this is going to be really chill. If you are watching later, I'm just going to start drawing pretty soon here and asking Ro a bunch of questions. Feel free to pop in. Leave comments, suggestions of things you want to see. Maybe our main character DEON in action doing while I'm drawing, and let's roll. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
I am gonna share our screen. Woo! All right. So I guess I'll kind of start off by saying it has been a hot minute since I've done a live drawing. I have done live painting events in the past, like in art walks and sort of like gallery settings. But I've never drawn digitally live unless it's been with like a workshop or a private student or something like this. So it may take me a minute to adjust to this.
I'm excited. I am excited.
Yeah. Okay. I normally play my my drawing techniques pretty close to the vest, so this is a big deal for me.
Right.
To let people in the process.
Right. I'm excited, but I'm not the one doing the drawing. I'm just gonna be talking. So.
See, now I feel like I have the nerves that you did earlier. Earlier, I was like, no, we're good. I've totally got this. We're going to be just fine. Now I'm like, oh, shit. It's time for me. So how's it been, bro? How's the day been? Were you on other live streams or anything like that?
So I was supposed to get on live. First of all, let me go ahead and apologize for any sounds that you may hear. My children are still awake. Usually when we're doing this, it's like 9:30. Kids are down. Everything's quiet. Today, not so much. So you may hear some tumbling around. The kids are fine. Don't worry about them. They're good. But no, the day has been good. The day has been good. I have my eyes glued on the Kickstarter, and I was supposed to go live on Facebook. I don't know. I'm not really sure why I didn't go live on Facebook, but I think I just thought I was gonna do it, but then I was like, maybe I'll just wait to go live with Kayla, and then we'll just do that. So here we are.
Rely on.
Right. But we are currently, just to give everybody an update on where we are right now, we have 45 backers. We're 34% of the way funded, and we have about $862. So, huh?
Oh, I'm making noises, just like yay, excitement.
No, I feel good. I feel like we're getting there. We're on our way. So it's been a good day.
What were you most nervous about before the launch today?
I think for me, I was most nervous, and I'm still nervous, just about you put a lot of work into building the page and trying to put things together that you think people will like, while also being mindful of your budget and all of those type of things, right? And I think the nervousness for me is like, did I miss something? Like, did I get everything? Yeah. Did I, dot all the I's, cross all the T's? Did I get it all? You know what I mean?
Right.
And even as the day's been going on, I've been getting little messages from people like, hey, what about this? I'm like, oh, I forgot to do that. So I'm like, and doing little things. Because I did forget some things. But I think the great thing, though, is that it's never the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? You may have forgot something, didn't do it, but I can go back and fix it. I can go back and edit it. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, we have time.
And it's like, hey, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then how can I fix this? How can I, how can we move past it?
Right. We're only human.
Yeah. So
feel free to pop in if you have questions about what in the world I'm doing. You are welcome to pipe up and ask questions. I know this is kind of, I always think that drawing videos are kind of like visual ASMR. Like you just get kind of sucked into watching the process.
right.
And it's been so long since I've had to like draw and talk, but not instruct. Like normally I'd be like, and now we're making sure that the eyes are spaced exactly one eyeball apart to make sure they're proportional.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, what is your thought process right now as you're doing this?
Well, so it's interesting because I have now drawn DEON so many times that I feel like I could probably draw him like in my sleep. The hardest part about drawing characters and actually just like working in comics and animation in general is making sure that you are capturing the likeness of the character consistently throughout the comic or the animation, because it's so easy to sort of fall into like a rhythm of the same kind of facial expressions, or like if you stop drawing and then you come back to it a day later, you'll tend to draw it just slightly differently, and it can throw off like the whole design,
Right.
you know. So I have a tendency to really simplify my comic character designs. I think for this drawing I'm going to kind of go a little more like all out because I have the time. I can. I'm not trying to draw DEON 47 times over the next like 10 hours. So
I'm here for it.
Yeah. DEON's an interesting character too, because I don't often draw like teenage characters. I generally am either drawing adults or like children. I don't get the opportunity to draw like sort of, because what is DEON? He's 16, 17?
19. 16, yeah. 19.
They all look the same. Okay. Can he legally rent a car? Because then you're just a child.
Right.
Man, that's embarrassing. I don't even know my character's own age.
It's never. I don't even think it's said in the story. It's fine.
Okay, perfect. I just know that like he's in school.
So he's a freshman in college.
Well, I was like 16 when I was a freshman in college, so I don't know if I have the best reference.
Okay, I need to say this. Listen, I learn something about Kayla every day. Like when I talk to Kayla, like there's like something new about her that I learn, and I'm like, how is there something else that I didn't know? Like this is amazing. It's amazing.
I'm just a mysterious person.
It's amazing.
That's not true. I'm not mysterious at all.
I just
lived many lives.
Pretty mysterious to me. It's pretty mysterious.
No. It's only because I haven't revealed my seedy past to you yet.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The collage that we have set up here, are you using that, or is that just like for decoration?
Yeah, so what you see on the left side of the screen, these are actually my reference images. What I do when I'm working with characters in like comic format is especially like a comic that's already been drawn before. So you see like I have Koi's design of DEON. I have another like original commissioned design. I don't think you can see that anyway. But on that like far bottom left, that's a originally commissioned design that you had of him. And then you have like my own drawings of DEON. And I sort of combine all of those to make sure that I am, one, keeping like a little bit of consistency between my designs and other artists, and two, to make sure that I'm really understanding sort of all the different evolutions of his character and keeping that in mind as I'm drawing. Because, you know, character design isn't just about the technical aspect of it, it's about understanding like who the character is, how they were depicted in other mediums or in other like variations of the media.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm using those as like reference guides to make sure that I'm staying true to like DEON's form as much as possible, and I'm not just like accidentally totally making him up, which I've 100% done. I have had to go back into comic pages or like animation panels and completely redraw, because I'll just like get this idea in my head of the way that a character looks,
Right.
and suddenly I'll realize, oh, that's not actually how they were designed. I have to go back. And it's like a runaway train almost. Like I get so into doing it one way, usually the way that I sort of see it in my imagination when I'm reading the script. And and that will like sort of come through, like sneak onto the page.
Right.
But while I'm drawing, why don't you, you know, I kind of alluded to earlier today that I feel like I've gotten to know you through the process of drawing DEON over and over again. And I think it's because I relate DEON so much to you. And I think we made the discovery like early on in this process that you didn't even realize how much of yourself you had actually put into DEON and like his story and his character. Why don't you expound for us on what you've discovered about DEON through this process?
Yeah. So I think for me, I think that what I didn't realize that I was writing about in this story was fatherhood and the relationship between, you know, a father, his son, and what that looks like how that's played out in life. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
like me and my dad, we have a great relationship now. But growing up, we didn't have a great relationship. I always felt part of that was because I wasn't being who he wanted me to be. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I look at DEON, like, you know, to me, DEON he's sort of eccentric. You know what I'm saying? He's sort of eccentric. He's really smart, but he also, you know, he wants to please his dad, and he wants to please his grandfather. He wants to make them proud, right? And so in this, you know, it's like a rock and a hard place where it's like, you know, he's trying to please his grandfather while at the same time that displeases his dad. You know what I'm saying? And so I think throughout the story, what I didn't realize that what I was writing, I didn't realize I was writing that until it was actually in the first issue. A couple of pages came back, and it was a moment between DEON and his dad, and they were at the cemetery at his grandfather's grave.
Yeah, I love that scene.
I got those pages back, and it was color on them, and I looked at them and I said, "Oh, this is the heart of the story. Like, it's not about, you know, the motorcycles or the, you know, the cybernetic enemies or the, you know, it's not about none of that. Those things are cool to me. But what it's really about are these relationships that DEON has. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I think for me, relating it back to myself, I didn't realize how much of that, like, obviously I knew that that was a part of my story, but I didn't realize that it was so deeply embedded into the story of DEON when I first started writing it. I just thought I was writing what I thought was a cool superhero story, you know. But that's the thing about writing, like art, not just writing, but art. Like you're whether you know it or not, you're putting yourself on the line for people to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like a vulnerability in putting yourself in your characters and your story. You know, that's one of the things that I've been so nervous for years and years about allowing my writing like out into the world, because it is for me a very personal process, and it feels like I'm exposing something that maybe I wouldn't normally want to share with people, or that I won't realize. You know, that was something that I learned when I was working as Beatrice and the Beast. You know, that whole series is extremely personal and autobiographical, and I didn't anticipate how much people would be able to sort of see through the facade of, oh, it's just paintings, it's just art. Like, people don't buy that shit. They look at a painting like what I was doing for Beatrice and the Beast, and they're like, oh, I feel that, I relate to that, so I imagine that you feel those things and relate to those things too. Yeah. And it can be really startling to like have that realization of like, oh, somebody relates to my work, somebody shares this like feeling, this mindset with me. And I think that's something that's like really, really powerful about your writing, is how much of yourself I think you don't realize that you put into it, and how revealing it can be, and how relatable it is, you know.
I appreciate that. So let me ask you this: when you're drawing, so like for example, you know, you've now entered into this Scarlet Ranger world, a Royal City, and you're drawing characters and things that didn't necessarily come from you.
Yeah.
You find yourself still putting yourself into these characters, into these pieces of art, and what does that look like?
That's really funny. I was actually journaling about that the other day, because I sort of came to this realization. One of the reasons that I can compartmentalize comics from my like painting practice is because I feel like when I'm drawing these characters from somebody else's story, it has the same level of escapism as I get when I'm like reading a piece of fiction, except it's like a more immersive way for me to be experiencing that. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
I feel like I have this duty as the person that's bringing these characters to life to keep myself out of it as much as possible. So it really allows my brain to sort of take like solace and like quiet down. And I find it very soothing and comforting, because I don't have to be thinking about, you know, how is this reflecting me? Am I being too transparent? Am I revealing too much of myself? I just get to like immerse myself in that person's identity. It's like playing dress up, but for my brain. You know, I get to experience all of these different worlds and events and lives, but through the rendering of these characters that weren't originally from myself. So I don't have like any stake in their origin. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That should go on a t-shirt. It's like playing dress up, but for my brain.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
Dress up for my brain. I think it's one of the reasons that I enjoy one of the reasons I enjoy comics so much more than I thought I would really struggle with accidentally putting too much of myself into other people's stories and characters.
Mm.
And I think that that's like a fear that I've kind of overcome the last few years. The more that I realize how soothing it is to sort of like take a walk in another person's brain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Especially like as somebody who has a really active brain, that just like it's really hard for me to relax and like not think about what I'm doing or the 1,000,005 things that I'm constantly juggling.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in my zone, like I'm just in my zone.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about that too is, so like to me, like all art is storytelling. Like when you look at a painting, telling a story, you know, dancers are telling stories. Like art is, their stories are being told. And so like when you say, you know, it's like playing dress up for your brain, that's an interesting statement though, because the reality is that you're dressing up like that for a reason. You resonate with whatever that costume or whatever that facade is saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So writer, when I'm looking for an artist to work with, you want to find an artist that is aligned with with the story that you're trying to tell, because then it is this synchronicity of two people trying to tell the same story. If I'm trying to tell a story and you're trying to tell the same story, but you're just using art and I'm using words, comes together seamlessly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's really amazing. Like when you put it that way, and then to look at the pages that you've done for Scarlet Ranger issue 2, you can see that. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see, like I showed the pages to my mom and she's like, the detail. And I'm like, I know the detail. But you can tell like you're putting yourself into it. You know what I mean?
I think that's so interesting that you say that, because that's something that I've been thinking a lot about through the process of drawing Scarlet Ranger. Like, you know, I'm pretty clear with, I only take stories except like jobs that I'm interested in, that I'm invested in, and that I somehow resonate with. And what's interesting is I haven't quite figured out or like put my finger on what it is about Scarlet Ranger that has me so deeply captivated. And I think it may have to do with the fact that the story is very deeply rooted in like family trauma, uh, generational sort of mantles being passed. There's this sense of like a longing to belong to this family secret and understand like what that means on a deeper level.
Right.
And I think that because I lacked that, like my family doesn't really have that. You know, I don't know that much about my family other than a little bit about like my mom, and I know very little about my bio dad. Like there's really this sort of hole in my personal history where like my family and like my family traditions would be if I were in the position of DEON. And so I feel really drawn to his story because it's like fascinating to me that there are people that have that. Like you, like your family has like a legacy, and you pass that down, and you have like made this conscious choice to divert from that legacy. And I see that reflected in this story, but like I'll never have that. So it's amazing to me.
Mm.
And you probably have like an oral history that goes with it too. Like I imagine your father and your grandfather tell you stories, and you have found a lot of like a sense of belonging maybe with your family through them?
Actually, no.
Really? Okay.
So
The plot
what
thickens.
so like to me, when I look at DEON, I see it more as what you said about yourself, where you said like you don't know much about
Yeah.
the people in your family, and
Yeah.
neither does DEON.
Interesting.
Because at the end of issue 1, he begins to find out things that he thought he
Right.
knew things about his father, and then we see in issue 2 he's starting to unravel those mysteries of like,
Right.
I thought I knew who that man was, but did you really? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then did he know who his dad was? Like, he doesn't know why his dad never became the Scarlet Ranger, because his dad never told him. And so for me, you would think that I had these oral histories, but
Yeah.
my dad, I don't know much about my dad. Like, I know some things about my dad,
Right.
but he didn't sit and say, hey, let's talk about my history. I didn't ask questions that he didn't tell me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Also, my dad, my dad grew up without his dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That, you know what I'm saying? And so, no, I don't have those oral histories. And I actually feel like a man without a home a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'll see people who like have like this connection to like their birth home, and they're like, yeah, I'm from Miami, Brooklyn,
Yeah.
I'm from Cali, from LA, I'm from, and I don't have like a connection to a place like that.
A place.
So
Yeah.
I feel like a military kid, even though I didn't grow up in the, I didn't grow up in the military
Yeah.
all the time. And
That's
so
interesting.
it's interesting that you say that, though, because that brings another layer of this story that I had, because yes, he is a part of a tradition that he knows nothing about,
Nothing
because
about.
he's having to learn about it by himself, and a little
Right.
bit from Miss Williams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. That is so fascinating. That's just like one more thing that you and I sort of parallel in each other's lives. And it explains a lot about why I feel so drawn to the story of DEON. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
when you explain it that way, it makes perfect sense, because I feel the same way. I moved around a lot. I claim like New York and Brooklyn as sort of my unofficial home, because that is like the place that I always felt the most at home. But I mean, I've spent time in Texas. I spent a lot of time in Virginia. I spent a lot of time um, back in New York City, like in Tennessee, in Florida, like all over the place. And I never really got to have that sense of home. And for me, like it became people were my home.
Right.
Like my husband is my home. My like best friend Cassis, she's like my home. Those relationships have like replaced my sense of belonging in like one place.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting.
I like that we're peeling back the layers of your psyche via DEON.
Yeah. Do we like that? We like that?
I mean, I like it. I'm not the one being examined.
But I think it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that I like about writing is that, so I always say like I write because I want to connect with people, but I
Yeah.
also want people to connect with themselves. So
Mm.
there is an examination of myself, but
Right.
even as so when I think about my stories, I'm like, these stories are created and written, in my opinion, they're written by there are two sides of this, right? So there's me who wrote the words, but once I give it to you And now you bring your experiences and you bring your background and you bring your perspective. And now your imagination is filling in the other side of it. And so that way we begin to co-create this story together, and it takes on whole new meanings that I didn't even see. I couldn't even see. I could never have thought of, because I don't have your experience and your perspective. And so I think I really, I love the fact that you're also, it sounds like you're examining yourself as well as you're, engaging with this story, because it's not just about Ro putting his heart on the line. It's also about you bringing your heart to the story as well. And I hope that's happening for all my readers. You know what I'm saying?
I think that that's something that's really unique about your writing, is that you do that. You do sort of prompt an amount of self-reflection. And I think it's because of the way that you craft your stories. They ask questions, and they prompt people to look a little bit deeper into what's really happening in the story. Mm-hmm. There is usually sort of a mysterious element to your plot lines where we're trying to figure out like a puzzle or solve something.
Right.
And I think that innately lends itself to that process of turning that lens like onto yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And for me as an artist, like that's, we're selfish people. Everything is about ourselves. So of course I'm going to sit here and reflect, like, how does this relate to me?
But that to me, that's where the power is, So a little bit about my writing process. A lot of times it begins, I'm like heavily plotting things, right? I'm heavily like, this happens, this cool thing happens, and I'm doing all this stuff. And, once I write like the first draft, the second draft, then I start to think, okay, but what is this? What's really happening with the characters? Why is this thing going up over here? Why does this matter to my character? And what does that trigger inside of them? And a lot of times that's where I find the theme. If I have a character who is triggered by something, in my mind, that's the thing that they're, whatever that negative emotion is, or whatever that is that's coming up inside of them, that's the thing that they're trying to overcome. That's the thing that they're trying to, find their way through. And so whatever that is, that becomes the entire theme or the spine of like the emotional core of the story, and that doesn't always happen for me in the beginning. That a lot of times that happens after I've done the playing and the, blowing stuff up and, big battles and things of that nature. Then I'm like, oh, this is really the undercurrent, the underpinnings of what I'm trying to say. And then I have to try to think like, okay, when have I dealt with this? Right. So I've had a situation where, I was trying to, stop a bomb from going off, but I have situations where, I'm trying to calm a situation, or I'm trying whatever that emotion is, you can connect that emotion without actually having that actual tangible thing. And so once I find that, then it's like, that's where I find myself being put into the story,
So it's like a process. It's almost like reverse archaeology. Like, so I tend to think of paintings in terms of like, I'm unearthing what's really happening in the painting as I get deeper and deeper into it. So it's like a reductive process where the more paint that I put on the canvas, the more that I figure out what's actually happening. It reveals itself to me versus me going into it thinking, this is exactly what I'm doing. I know, here's my plan for this. And it's fascinating to me that your writing process is very similar to that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the same thing, when I first started writing Scarlet Ranger, you know, I had way more characters, you know, and I had all this stuff happening, and it was like, okay, I don't need that guy. Okay, I don't need
Right.
her. It's not about her. It's not about him. Okay. Oh, it's about them. You know what I'm saying? And
Do you find yourself being like precious with your characters? Like you get so attached to one that you don't want to let it go, but it really doesn't serve your overall like story?
I actually don't have a problem with that. I know
Really?
who do, like they're like, you know, he's so important. I can't do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I actually, the other thing about me too is that I don't overwrite things. Like
Mm,
usually I have to, like other drafts, it's like, okay, you need to write more, you need to fill in. And so I'm
right.
always trying to like write as sparse and like the least amount that I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that lends me to be like I'm looking for things to cut. I'm looking for characters that I don't need. I'm looking for themes and people and whatever. If I can cut it, I'm like, all right, let's cut it down. Let's
Yeah.
cut it
Like
down.
let's get rid of
Yeah,
it. That's so interesting to me. I think writers must be unique in that because like I have such a hard time letting go of things in my paintings. Like I had a professor that used to call me like the most precious painter because as soon as I like put something, I would be so enamored with just like this little detail and I
yeah,
would shape like the entire painting around this little detail because I was like, but I love it so
right,
much. I'm so
right,
invested in this one little piece
yeah,
and it would change like everything. And I've gotten better about it as I've gotten older, but now that I work with authors, you guys are vicious. You're just like, I know that you were probably the second or third most important character in this, but
right.
you're gonna die now. Like, just bye. No longer
Blame
need it.
blame George R. Martin. He showed us what was
Yeah, the most fearless of knocking off
right.
main characters.
For sure. Real quick, the link that's scrolling down at the bottom, and if you follow that link, it'll take you to the Scarlet Ranger Kickstarter page.
Yes.
We're funding Scarlet Ranger #2. We are currently, let's give a little update. Let's give a little update. Um, we're currently, we've gotten 2 backers since we've been on, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're at 47 backers, and we're 35% of the way there. So,
Oh my God.
if you like talking about right now, if you like, you know, how Scarlet Ranger 2 sounds and you haven't backed yet, please consider going to check out, you know, the different tiers and the different rewards that we have, different rewards that we have, and yeah, I maybe what Kayla's working on right now could potentially become a reward.
Who knows?
Ooh,
I should have
no.
done this on my easel. I should have really embarrassed myself and shown you guys my drawing on paper process. That's a lot angrier than this. It's way less ASMR. It's more like, what the fuck? Why would you do this? It's a lot more yelling and cursing.
Word.
It's not child appropriate if you have children around.
Yes, big
Speaking of,
children. No, go back and get mommy. Go back and tell mommy. Okay. All right.
oh my
Go.
gosh.
All right. It's about to get crazy in here.
Oh no.
It's about to get crazy.
Oh my
Excuse
goodness.
me for 1 second. I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
oh shoot. I'm gonna continue drawing and entertaining anybody who's here. Speak up or forever hold your peace if you want me to do anything different than what I'm doing. I'm just kind of defaulting to like a little happy portrait of DEON, even though he doesn't actually get to be happy very often in Scarlet Ranger. We keep the brow crinkle. I've decided that the brow crinkle is like my favorite characteristic of DEON. he's just kind of like a permanent worrier like me. I am a permanent forever worrier about everything, about all of the things. What do you think? Do you appreciate the permanent worry crease that I give DEON in like every single scene, including this portrait? Just
I
little...
didn't. And he's going.
I've decided this is the little bit of myself that I've snuck into DEON. Like I'm forever worrying about everything all the time at once.
That's great.
I think it's called clinical anxiety, but we're gonna call it quirky.
So when you're sitting down to do something like this, right?
Yeah.
How in advance do you decide what you're gonna do? Do you like know beforehand, or do you just sort of sit down and just let it flow?
Oh, to be totally honest, I had no idea what I was gonna do when like literally I sat down and was like, guess we're just gonna see what comes out. Like when I've done like live drawing or painting events in the past, I've usually had a little bit of an idea. Like, so my husband, for those of you that don't know, is a musician who's currently coming out of retirement. And when we lived in Nashville for the last couple of months that we were there before the pandemic shut everything down, we actually started performing together. I did a lot of performance art in Brooklyn, and I was a dancer for many years. And so we kind of combined my husband's like art rock set that was mostly like performance based and my like live painting, and we started doing these shows where I would take like giant life-size canvases and do like a performance while painting something live like on stage as he was playing music, usually behind like a curtain that was on the stage, so you actually couldn't see him. It was just like him playing music and then me painting and usually doing some type of like choreographed performance piece to the music. And those things I would generally sort of do like a run through before I did it, just to make sure that I could actually time everything to the music and to the set. But when I was doing just like, if I was at an art walk or a gallery event and somebody said, hey, will you come and just do like a live painting demo or something? More often than not, I would just either like choose somebody out of the crowd and start doing sort of like my favorite, like an anthropomorphic like painting of them. And very rarely would like tell people who it was. Who it was.
Okay. They wouldn't know it was them.
No. You know, because I don't know. Maybe you're offended if I think you look like a hyena or something. And you never know.
Right.
So I mean, it was something that I did like in New York, and this is so like typical, but New York artist. I would sketch people on the subway, or like I would go to the museums and I would like sketch people looking at paintings, or just like involved in everyday sort of life activities. Or for a long time, before I realized how creepy it was, I would sit in coffee shops and just like sketch people in coffee shops. And only very rarely did I get caught, but when I did, I always felt like extremely embarrassed. So I stopped doing it. That's my very long-winded way of saying no. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Okay,
I just know that DEON is coming to life slowly but surely here.
Sure, for sure.
This is the moment where we see how funny he looks without his underdrawing before I put color in. Or any of his other like textures.
I'm fascinated the process.
Oh yeah, by this process. This is what I do for many hours a day. This is what I get paid to do. Who knew?
Word. Word.
So I actually don't know that much about when you started writing Scarlet Ranger. I learned recently through one of our podcasting adventures that you actually started writing Scarlet Ranger like a long time ago.
Yeah, I started writing Scarlet Ranger in 2014.
Oh my gosh.
So I started writing in 2014, put together an art team. I had like an editor. I had an art. I had, yeah, I mean, we were doing it. Like we had like 6 pages. No, maybe 4 pages. We had pages in the can. Like
yeah.
And everything just sort of fell apart. You know, the team, you know, I'm not going to go into all of the details, but it fell apart. It just fell apart.
Yeah. Just not like right time, right people.
Yeah. And so I just sort of walked away from it. I mean, I really, you know, I didn't really have a good understanding of how to, like, I understood how to collaborate and like work with other artists, but I didn't understand how to deal with some of the personalities that I was dealing with. And so it just sort of fell apart. And it was probably 2 or 3 years went by because I didn't pick Scarlet Ranger back up until 2019. No, 2020. Wow. Back up till 2020.
Was it pre-pandemic or post-pandemic?
It was pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic hit. Was that 2019?
No. 2020. Yeah. Right?
The pandemic in 2020, January 2020, right? I mean, March 2020.
March 2020. Yeah. March 2020.
I started working on Scarlet Ranger at the end of 2019.
Oh, wow.
And so then we ran the first, so I guess it took me like a year, I guess, to like really get it written and get it down.
Mm-hmm.
And
is that how long it typically takes for you to write a comic script?
No. It took it then because I was still in the process of like really learning my process, what it takes me to write, what I need to write.
Right.
Now that I know my process, things are a lot more streamlined for me.
Yeah. So okay.
I write, you know, well, yeah, I mean, it really depends. It depends, right? Like if I'm building a world from scratch, right? Like if I got to build the world, build the characters and do all that, yeah, it's going to take me like a month or 2 months. But once I get that down, like right now, I'm going to write Scarlet Ranger 3 in like a week. And then I'm going to write, yeah. Like I'm just going to like blow through it. You know what I'm saying? Just because I know, like, I know the process. I know my process. I know, and I give myself like quotas, right? Like I'm like, all right. I'm writing, I want to do this in a week. I'm writing 32 pages. All right, we need to write 8 pages a day.
What? Okay. Interesting.
And that's just what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? Now, unless something comes up or, you know, things happen sometimes. So I know that in a week because I've done it. I've done it before. I mean, I wrote Scarlet Ranger 2. I wrote that in a week.
What? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, because remember when we first started.
It wasn't finished. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't finished, right? And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna get it to you next week. Or maybe I might have had like 4
pages. You had most of it, yeah.
Okay, well maybe I'm tripping.
No, I'm sure you remember better than I do, Ro. Do you know how many scripts I read in a week?
I remember that one time I called you and I was like, yeah, so I was thinking we could do this, and you were like, oh, you mean on page 19? And I was like, huh? And you were like, oh, I'm sorry, wrong script, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Wrong client, my bad.
Yes. No, it's true. It's really bad. I have like a stack of scripts that I keep nearby because I'm usually working on at least like 2 to 3 full-length comics at one time. And I print out the scripts, I annotate them. I do little like drawings and sketches like in the margins and that kind of thing. And I mean, these things are rough. Like one day I want to do like a coffee table book of how like stained and messy my like well-loved scripts become.
Yeah.
But because I work on 2 to 4 scripts at a time, it is very possible that I'll be like, oh yeah, this like scene from blah blah blah, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Did
right,
I
right.
forget something that I wrote in my own script? They're like, no, I'm sorry, I was working on this, but we're talking now.
Right.
It can get very, very complicated.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
One time I was doing these like fantasy like character art commissions, and they both were for these sort of like fairy or fae like high lord character art pieces, and they were so similar, but they were from two different authors. And I actually accidentally like mixed up like the hair and eye color on them. Like I put them, like one was supposed to belong on one high fae lord and the other, and I totally botched it. And they were like, I understand like artistic license and stuff like that, but is this right? I was like, no.
Yeah. What's up, Lou? What's up, Lou?
Hey. Welcome.
For sure. The question you asked me, Scarlet Ranger. So when I came back to it, I got a new art team. So I had put it down for a couple years.
Yeah.
And then I came back to it, and then the first thing I did was I got an editor.
Okay.
And they they helped me do the outline and, just sort of just think through the way the whole arc was going to go.
Right.
And then I found the artist, Coy, which I had worked with Coy before on a short, like black and white fantasy comic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the comic books on my website. Have you seen them?
I have, because I belong to like your newsletter and everything.
Okay, yeah. Okay. But but Beast of the Outer Lands is not, I never sent that out on my newsletter.
No, it's on your website, like under publications or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you've seen it.
Yeah. Look, I did my research on you when we first started. So I gotta make sure this is real.
Word. So we worked on that, and I had started looking for other artists, and I couldn't really find anybody that I could rock with. So I just went back to Coy, like, bro, you want to do something else? You want to do a 20-pager? Because the Beast was 10 pages. I said, bro, you want to do a 20-pager? And he was like, yeah. And so we did it. And that was, I worked with the editors from like the end of 2019 through, I guess, 2020.
Okay.
And then I feel like I'm messing this timeline up a little bit, to be honest with you. I think I started working.
Everybody's timeline from the pandemic is messed up.
No, this is what it is. Here we go.
Okay.
Started working in 2019, and at the end of 2020, I found the editors. Yeah, I found the editors, and then at the beginning of 2021, that's when Coy and Sai started working on the book. And then by the end of 2021, that's when we ran the first Kickstarter. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes. And it was really successful, right?
What'd you say?
And your first Kickstarter for Scarlet Ranger 1 was really successful, right? I think I
Yeah,
remember you getting like did you get the Kickstarter We Love badge
but
from?
no, we didn't
No?
get that. We had 246 backers. We raised like $6,700.
Yeah.
It was really cool, for the first. We funded in about 2 days. And so it was really cool, just seeing people come out and support. People say they're going to support you, but you never really know when it's time. And so I'm just so grateful for, all the people who said they were going to support and came out and supported. And I'm seeing a lot of those people, come back for this campaign as well. Like I'm, looking at some of the names, I'm like, yeah, like they're
Yeah.
returning, hoping that you know what I'm saying?
I've had so much fun like scrolling through the names, seeing like, oh, I know you. Oh, I know you.
Word. Word. So I'm actually gonna have to get ready to get out of here.
Oh, you're good. I'm down to the color portion of this, which
Looks great though.
means this puppy will be done pretty soon. Once I get to this part, it means we're getting close to the end.
True.
It means we are getting close to the end. What are some of the things that some of the things about DEON that you see most in yourself now that you've like stepped back and started sort of looking through the lens of like, oh, I am like writing a character that is more of myself than I realized? Does he have any like specific quirks that are particular to you? I feel like maybe I should be asking your wife that.
Yeah.
Be like, yes.
I think I would say I think he has, which I don't even know if we've really seen. Well, no, I think we've seen this. He has an obsessive quality about himself where he's like sort of hard-headed. Like he's like, this is what I'm choosing to do it this way, and I'm not backing off of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's weird. Like I'm sort of weird where there's a lot of things that I'm like really like open and I'm like cool about it. I'm like, all right, like, hey, I'm cool. Like we can do it your way. Like I'm like, I'm cool. I'm easy going. But then there's certain times where it's like, nah, we got to do it this way. Like we just got to do it. And so
I didn't say anything like that. I don't know if we have.
See, we haven't yet because I think that if you were telling me something about the writing of it and there was something that you wanted to change and I felt really strongly about it, I think we would then butt heads. But I don't think we would butt heads on the art side because I'm always going to defer to you on the art. So if you say, hey, I think this is going to look better like this, I'm always going to say, cool, you got it. But if you say, I think the story's going to be better like this, and I disagree with that, I'm probably going to, you know what I'm saying? Like I would then like, okay, we need to talk more about this because I would feel more confident in my ability to argue that. You know what I'm saying?
Is that going to be the one time that we disagree, bro?
We're going to have
Is
to
that
go
the
live.
thing that we get to fight about?
Yep. I'm like, wait, hold that thought. Let's go live. Go live. That's funny.
No, wait until we start tabling at cons together. You're going to discover I'm the hardest person to get food with because I'll just never tell you. You'll be like, do you want to go get tacos or do you want to go get like a sandwich? And I'll be like, I don't know, whatever. You're like, well, just tell me. That'll be our first.
I'm just gonna get stuff. That's the thing about me. Like, if I want a burger, the first time I ask you and you say, oh, I don't know, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get a burger. I'm gonna bring one back, and you're gonna say, I don't want that, and I'm gonna say, all right, cool, but it's here.
Now I have 2 burgers.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not even gonna eat it. You don't want it. I'm just gonna sit right here. You might change your mind. Cool. You know what I'm saying?
That's so funny. You're gonna have to let my husband know that trick. I drive him fucking crazy with my inability to decide what to eat.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, I got to get out of here. We got to feed the kiddos and ready for their bedtime. But I appreciate you, Kayla. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I appreciate all the backers and all the people who tuned in to check us out tonight. Again, there's the link that's scrolling across the bottom. If you haven't backed, please do so today. Again, if you back in the first 24 hours, you get a free metal bookmark that's designed by Kayla Raney. And yeah, I think that's it. Kayla, you have
No, I'm just gonna say, like, I'll finish this off screen and we'll throw it up sometime in the next coming weeks as we get closer and closer to the end of this. And this was a lot of fun. I had a great launch day. It's not quite over yet, but it's getting there, and I'm super stoked. Let's back this. I'm so excited.
Word. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Shout out to Gaia for holding us down with the and that's that. We appreciate y'all and we love y'all, and y'all have a great night.